Welcome to Knit Pickers in beautiful downtown Mayfield. That's Prince Edward Island. Today I'm going to show you a couple of different techniques for casting or binding off your project. The first one is the standard bind off. That's the one that almost everybody does, and it gives a nice firm edge to your cast off. The second technique I'll show you is one that gives you a little bit more stretch to your cast off edge. And that's a real bonus. Say for instance, if you're knitting from the toe up socks and you don't want that bind off edge on the cuff of your sock to be firm, to be tight around your calf. Or maybe you're knitting a shawl and you want something that is a little bit softer, a little bit flowier for the edge. So either one of these two techniques will work beautifully for almost any knitting project that you have. So, shall we get started? So the first technique I'm going to show you is the standard bind off or standard cast off. Very simple to do. You start out just by knitting the first stitch as you normally would, and you knit the second stitch as you normally would. Then you take your left hand needle and you slip it into that first stitch on your right hand needle and bring that first stitch up and over the second stitch. So let's do that again. I knit the next stitch, insert my needle into the first stitch on my right hand needle, up and over she goes, and I keep on doing that until I reach the end of the row. And I'll join you when I hit the end of the row then, and I'll show you what this bind off edge looks like. So here I am nearing the end of my cast off row. So to recap, I knit the first two stitches, then I lifted that first stitch over the second one, then I knit the next stitch just as you normally would. Then with your left hand needle, taking the first stitch off the right hand needle and lifting it up and over the second stitch, and knitting the next stitch on your row, taking your left hand needle, inserting it into the right stitch or the first stitch on your right hand needle, and up and over she goes until I get to my last stitch. So I'll knit that stitch, lift this second stitch up and over, just like that, and then I would cut my yarn or break my yarn and just pull this all the way through. Now I've got a long tail here, but yeah, just pulling that all the way through. And there is your nice, tidy bind-off edge. Now you can see though, it doesn't have a lot of stretch to it. So there's another technique that I'll show you that will give your bind-off edge a little more stretch. And it depends on what you're making. On some projects you might want a firmer edge like this. On other projects you might want a stretchier edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo these last 10 stitches and I'll show you the new technique and we can compare them side by side. So I've just undone these last 10 stitches, and these are the stitches that I bound off in the standard or traditional manner, giving that nice firm edge. Now I'm going to show you the second way of binding off that will give you a stretchier edge. So let's imagine that I'm at the beginning of the row and I've just knit this first stitch. Then I'm going to knit the second stitch. I'm going to insert my left hand needle into the front of those two stitches so that I can knit these 2 stitches from behind. Knit those 2 stitches through. Knit the next stitch as I normally would. Insert my left-hand needle into the front of those 2 stitches so I can knit these 2 stitches from behind. Now once again, knit the next stitch, left-hand needle into the front of these 2 stitches so that I'm knitting those 2 stitches from behind. Now if you've not knit stitches from behind, this is what I'm doing. Normally what you would do is you would knit the stitch. You would have to transfer these 2 stitches back onto your left-hand needle. Take your right-hand needle, insert them into the back of these 2 stitches, and knit them through. So into the back of these 2 stitches, and bring your yarn up and through. So I'm actually just combining a step, because if I knit the next stitch, rather than having to transfer these 2 stitches over onto my left-hand needle, I just insert my left-hand needle into the front of the 2 stitches, and it effectively does the same. My right-hand needle is now inserted into the back of these 2 stitches, and I can knit through the back loops. Just like that. So once again, knit this stitch, insert my left-hand needle into the front of the 2 so that I can knit through the back of those 2 stitches. And what this is going to give you is a nice stretchy bind off. I'm nearing the end of this row. Now this technique does use a little more yarn than the standard bind off, so do be sure that you leave yourself a little bit of extra if you're going to use this technique when casting off. Now I've knit that last stitch into the front, knit these 2 stitches together, and then I'm just going to pull my yarn all the way through. So what you see, there's the stitches that I did the knit 2 together through the back loop, and here's the bind off where I was doing the standard bind off. So this is quite firm, but you can see this has an awful lot more stretch to it. The stitches also look, the cast off edge also looks a little larger. What you will find with this cast off edge, with the second cast off edge, it may tend to flare out a little bit. But that's okay, especially if you're, say, knitting the top of a sock, the cuff of a sock, where it's coming up from the ankle and your calf widens out. You want it to be a little bit wider at the top, so this is a really good stitch for that. They really don't look a lot different. They're both nice and tidy, but this one is firmer and this one gives a little more stretch. So depending on the project that you're knitting, you can choose one or the other. So I hope you found today's tutorial helpful, and you'll give one of these techniques a try the next time you want to cast off a project. And in the meantime, happy knitting.